The afternoon was quiet, almost too quiet, as Naomi sat in her cozy living room folding laundry. The sun streamed softly through the curtains, and the faint laughter of her two children, Daniel and Sarah, echoed from the backyard where they played. It was an ordinary day, or at least it started that way. Naomi was humming softly when her phone rang. She reached for it without much thought, but the moment she answered, her world turned upside down. "Hello, is this Mrs. Naomi Attawale?" "Yes, this is she," Naomi replied, her heart already skipping a beat. "This is Officer Bammy from the city police. Your husband has been involved in a serious accident. He was rushed to St. Mary's Hospital. You need to come immediately." Naomi froze, her breath caught in her throat. The laundry slipped from her hands. "What? No, that can't be. How bad is it?" she stammered. "Ma'am, please come quickly. It's critical." Her hands trembled as she grabbed her keys, calling out to her neighbor to please watch the kids. Daniel and Sarah, confused, ran toward her, but she kissed them quickly, forcing a shaky smile through her tears. "Mommy will be right back. Be good, okay?" Naomi drove like a madwoman, her vision blurry with tears. Fear clawed at her chest. Her husband, Michael, had only left the house a couple of hours earlier to run errands. She couldn't fathom how everything had changed so suddenly. When she burst through the doors of the emergency ward, the sterile smell of disinfectant hit her nose. Nurses rushed past her, and the constant beeping of machines filled the air. She spotted a police officer standing near a bed and ran toward him. "Where is my husband?" "Where is Michael Attawale?" she cried. "Calm down, ma'am," Officer Bammy said, holding her by the shoulders. "He's unconscious. The doctors are doing their best, but they need to stabilize him." Naomi's gaze shifted to the bed. There lay Michael, her strong, lively husband, now pale and motionless, his head wrapped in bandages, machines beeping steadily beside him. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched his hand. "Michael, please stay with me," she whispered. After a few minutes, a nurse approached Naomi with a serious expression. "Ma'am, we need to start emergency procedures right away, but we require an initial deposit before we can proceed." Naomi blinked through her tears. "How much?" The nurse told her the amount, and Naomi's heart sank. It was far beyond what she had in her wallet or bank account at the moment. I don't have that kind of money right now," she said, panic rising in her voice. "Please, just help him. I will find a way to pay, I swear." The nurse shook her head sympathetically. "Hospital policy, ma'am. Without the deposit, we can't proceed with the full treatment." Officer Bammy, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "Madam, do you have access to your husband's bank account? Perhaps his ATM card or his phone? You can transfer the funds quickly." Naomi shook her head, feeling a fresh wave of shame and fear. I don't know his card PIN, and his phone. I don't know the password to unlock it." The officer frowned deeply, taken aback. "You don't know either. Are you a girlfriend or his wife?" he asked, almost suspiciously. Naomi wiped her tears and straightened her back despite the trembling of her body. "I'm his wife. We've been married for 8 years. We have 2 children together. I swear I am his wife." The officer sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Ma'am, it's not normal for a wife to have no access to such basic things. In emergencies like this, it leaves you powerless. You need to think about this in the future." His words pierced Naomi like a dagger. She realized how little control she had in their marriage when it came to finances. Michael had always been a private man, handling all money matters himself. She trusted him completely and never questioned it, until now. Naomi stepped out into the hallway, frantically scrolling through her phone contacts. She called friends, neighbors, and relatives, explaining the situation and begging for help. "Please, my husband is in critical condition," she pleaded with her sister. "Naomi, you know things are tough right now. I don't have that kind of money," her sister said softly, almost ashamed. Call after call, the answer was the same. Either they didn't have enough to help, or they couldn't get the money quickly enough. Naomi sank into a plastic chair, clutching her head in despair. Her tears fell freely, her body trembling as waves of helplessness and fear washed over her. She stared blankly at the tiled floor, the sounds of nurses rushing and machines beeping around her fading into a dull hum. Through the glass doors, she could see Michael lying still, his life hanging by a thread. Suddenly, a sharp, persistent ringtone shattered the heavy silence. Naomi looked up, startled, and saw Officer Bammy holding Michael's phone in his hand. The officer glanced at the screen, then walked toward her with a puzzled expression. "Madam, it's your husband's phone." "Someone is calling," he said. Naomi's heart began to pound violently. Maybe it was someone who could help, someone who could lend them the money. "Please answer it," she urged. The officer nodded and put the call on loudspeaker. Naomi leaned forward anxiously, but the moment her eyes caught the name flashing on the screen, her breath caught in her throat. The caller ID read, "Sweetheart." Naomi's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. A cold, numbing wave of shock rolled over her, and for a moment she couldn't even breathe. The call connected, and a woman's voice filled the air, cheerful and oblivious. "Hey, baby! I've been calling you and you're not picking up," the woman said playfully. Naomi's stomach twisted painfully. "Baby?" The room seemed to spin around her. She felt as though she was sinking into the floor, drowning in disbelief and hurt. Officer Bamy's face hardened. "Excuse me, madam," he said firmly into the phone. "I'm not the owner of this phone. I'm a police officer. May I know your relationship with the man who owns this phone?" There was a brief pause on the other end before the woman laughed lightly. "Oh, he's just a friend," she said quickly. The officer's voice sharpened. "Are you sure? A girlfriend or just a friend?" There was silence, then a hesitant sigh. "I'm his girlfriend," the woman finally admitted. Naomi clutched her chest, her whole body shaking as silent sobs racked her. She turned her face away, trying not to collapse under the weight of the betrayal. "Madam," Officer Bammy said, his tone professional, "I need you to come to St. Mary's Hospital immediately. There's been an accident, and your boyfriend is in a very critical condition." The woman gasped. "Oh my God, I'll be there right away." When the call ended, Naomi sat frozen, her mind screaming, "My husband has a girlfriend who calls him baby." Minutes later, a young woman rushed into the hospital, her heels clacking loudly against the floor. She was beautiful and stylishly dressed, her worried expression softening when she saw the officer. Naomi sat quietly in the corner, unseen in her anguish, her face hidden behind her trembling hands. "Officer, what happened?" the young woman asked breathlessly. He explained the situation calmly. "He was in an accident. The doctors are ready to operate, but we need to make a payment before they can proceed." The woman's brows furrowed. "Why are you asking me for money?" "He has his own money." "That's the problem," the officer said. "We cannot access it without his phone. Do you know his password?" "Yes, of course," she said casually. Naomi's head snapped up, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her mouth fell open, but no sound came out. She knows his phone password? Naomi had lived with Michael for years, borne his children, built a family with him, yet she didn't know the password to his phone. The girlfriend unlocked the phone effortlessly, as if she'd done it countless times before. The officer transferred the necessary funds straight from Michael's account to the hospital. "Thank you," the officer said. "They can now proceed with the surgery immediately." As the nurses rushed Michael to the operating room, the officer turned to the girlfriend. "Madam, please stay here. He is in a very critical condition. It's best to have someone close by." The girlfriend shook her head quickly, waving her hand dismissively. "Oh no, I can't stay. I have things to do. Besides..." She hesitated, her eyes darting away. "Besides, he has a wife, doesn't he? Call her to come and stay with him." The words struck Naomi like a physical blow. She gripped the edge of her chair so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "The wife! I am the wife," she screamed silently in her head. But she stayed silent, too stunned and heartbroken to speak. "Very well," the officer said, hiding his disapproval. The girlfriend grabbed her bag and hurried out of the hospital, completely unaware that the woman she spoke of, the wife she so casually dismissed, had been sitting only a few feet away, listening to every word. Officer Bammy turned back and saw Naomi's devastated face. Gently, he placed Michael's phone in her trembling hands. "Here, madam. I must leave now, but I will come back tomorrow to check on the situation," he promised. Naomi nodded numbly, unable to form words. When Officer Bamadel finally left for the night, Naomi stood there motionless, still clutching her husband's phone in her trembling hand. Silent tears streamed down her cheeks. Her heart felt as though it had been shattered beyond repair. The man she had built her life with, the father of her children, was lying unconscious in a hospital bed, and she had just discovered he had another woman. Her body shook violently as she whispered through her tears, "How could you, Michael? How could you do this to me? To us?" Around her, life in the hospital went on. Nurses bustled, patients groaned, and machines beeped. But for Naomi, the world had gone eerily quiet. All she could hear was the echo of that woman's voice, sweet and carefree, calling her husband baby. And in that moment, Naomi realized that even if Michael survived the surgery, their lives would never be the same again. As much as she wanted to collapse right there, she knew she couldn't. She had left her children with the neighbor in a hurry, and it was already very late. The hospital promised that if there was any urgent update, they would call her immediately. With that reassurance, Naomi forced herself to leave the hospital and drive back home. The drive home was a blur. Her heart felt heavy in her chest, and her mind was a storm of questions and hurt. She walked into the house quietly so as not to wake the children. Daniel and Sarah were sleeping peacefully, completely unaware that their world was about to change forever. Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her husband's phone. She had memorized the password earlier when the girlfriend had casually unlocked it at the hospital. Her hands trembled as she typed it in. The screen lit up, and at that moment, Naomi felt like she was about to open the door to a truth she wasn't ready for. As she scrolled through the messages, her entire world crumbled. There were countless conversations between Michael and the woman saved under the name Sweetheart. The messages were intimate, filled with loving words and promises, words Michael had never spoken to her in all their years of marriage. The things he said to this other woman were things Naomi had always longed to hear from him. She kept scrolling, her vision blurring with tears, and saw photos of expensive gifts he had bought for her, pictures of them traveling together, and romantic dinners. Her stomach turned as she read some of the explicit messages between them, but what cut her deepest was when she opened his banking app. Her breath caught when she saw his balance, 15 million naira. For years, Naomi had been struggling to keep the household afloat. She had been the one working tirelessly in a small family-run business her relatives had helped her open. She was always telling Michael that things were tight, that they needed to budget carefully, and he would only nod and say he had no extra money. But now, staring at the screen, Naomi realized that while she was scraping together funds to pay school fees and groceries, her husband had been showering another woman with unimaginable wealth. Her hands shook as she went through the transaction history. Transfers of 1 million, not once but several times, all to this girlfriend. Other times, 600,000, 800,000, all gone to someone who wasn't even part of their family. Naomi's face was wet with silent tears as she whispered, "How could you do this to me, Michael?" To your children? In all the years they had been married, Michael had never even transferred 200,000 to her account, not for the children, not for the home. And yet, he had poured millions into this woman who didn't even care enough to stay when he was fighting for his life in the hospital. A sudden calmness washed over Naomi. Her heart was breaking, but at the same time she knew she had to act. Slowly, deliberately, she made a transfer of 13 million naira from his account into hers. She left 2 million, telling herself that it would be enough to cover his hospital bills and rehabilitation. As the transfer confirmation appeared, Naomi sat frozen, clutching the phone. She didn't know what her next step would be. Should she take her children and leave forever? Should she stay and fight for her marriage? The weight of the decision was crushing. Over the next few days, Naomi remained quiet. She took care of the children, went about her business, and waited for updates from the hospital. Finally, Michael was discharged. When he came home, it was clear he would not recover quickly. He was in a wheelchair, unable to walk on his own. The doctors had said he needed intensive physiotherapy and daily exercises to regain his strength and hopefully walk again. At first, Naomi said nothing. She cooked for him, helped him move around, and took care of the children. But inside, she was a volcano ready to erupt. One evening, Michael checked his phone and nearly exploded when he saw his bank account balance. "Naomi! Where is my money?" he yelled, his face twisted in anger. "Over 13 million naira is missing from my account. What did you do?" Naomi's calmness startled him. She set down the plate she was holding and looked him straight in the eyes. "Do you really want to talk about money, Michael?" she asked quietly. He glared at her. "Yes, I want to talk about money. Tell me where my money is." Naomi's voice rose, filled with years of pain. "That money is gone to me and the children, the ones you abandoned while you were busy pampering another woman." Michael's face turned pale. What? What are you talking about?" Naomi's hands shook, but her voice was steady as she told him everything. "How do you think I found out, Michael? The night of your accident, another woman, not your wife, unlocked your phone because she knew the password. I stood there watching while she transferred money to save your life. I, your wife, the mother of your children, didn't even know the password to your phone." Michael's mouth opened, but no words came out. Naomi continued, her voice breaking. "And when you were lying there unconscious, I went through that phone. I saw everything. The gifts, the love messages, the trips. I saw the millions you gave her while telling me we had to manage because you had no money. I saw how you treated her like a queen while I, your wife, was left to struggle alone, paying for our children's needs with a small family business." She wiped her tears angrily. "Do you know how badly you've treated me, Michael? You don't take care of me. You don't respect me." Michael broke down, his voice trembling. "Naomi, please. I made mistakes. I was wrong. I'll fix this. Please forgive me." But Naomi's heart was hardened. She gathered her children's clothes and belongings, packed their bags, and left for her parents' home. For 3 days, Michael called her repeatedly, begging her to return. But life was suddenly very difficult for him. He was helpless, confined to a wheelchair, needing constant assistance. The girlfriend he had lavished millions on refused to come and care for him. "Michael, I can't handle this," she said coldly on the phone. "You have a wife. Call her." And then she blocked his number. Realizing he had no one else, Michael's desperation grew. He called Naomi over and over, crying, begging, apologizing. Naomi's heart was still broken, but she was a compassionate woman. She left the children with her mother and returned to take care of Michael. She bathed him, fed him, and supported him through his physiotherapy sessions until, slowly, he began to walk again. The whole time, Michael begged her to stay, promising he had changed. But Naomi had seen too much. The wound was too deep to heal. One evening, as Michael managed to stand on his own for the first time, Naomi looked at him calmly. "I have made my decision," she said quietly. "I will not live in this marriage anymore. It's clear to me that you don't love me. I won't raise our children in a home filled with lies and betrayal." Michael fell to his knees, crying, "Naomi, please, don't leave me. I was a fool. I've lost everything." But Naomi stood firm. She gathered her children and moved into a new house. With the 13 million she had taken, she expanded her business into something far bigger and more successful. She built a good life for herself and her children, independent and strong. Meanwhile, Michael lived with deep regret. He was forced to face the painful truth. The woman he had worshipped with gifts and money had vanished when he needed her most, while the wife he had mistreated had been the one to care for him during his darkest days. By the time he fully recovered, Naomi had completely moved on. Michael was left alone, haunted by his choices, knowing he had destroyed the only true love he ever had. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, comment, and share. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. See you in the next one. Bye.